You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast.
Give you a nice little detour.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I am excited to be here tonight. We are getting near the end of season 35 of The Amazing Race. Welcome in Josh and Nicole. It's good to have you back.
Thank you.
How's it going?
It's going great, Josh. We just watched season 35, episode 10, and we have a new winner of An Amazing Race leg in season 35. That is not Greg and John.
Wow.
Now, Josh, I know you've been working hard the last few days. You've been late nights. You're rocking a little 5 o'clock shadow today. Was that a little foreshadowing of Joel and Garrett? You were all in on them. You were loving them last week, and they come out and they secure a victory in episode 10.
It is I am growing it out just for them. It's my homage. They are fun to watch. They are so I guess easy to watch, right? Like, I don't feel stressed. I feel like I could lose my sorrows and enjoy their own glory. And so I'm having a blast watching them do great.
What a great episode. Up to the very last minute, a nail biter, a 4-way foot race. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And then what a plot twist, having the Mustachios win. I didn't see it coming.
Me either. I think I lost how they kind of overcame the pack of 3. Did I miss something there? I must have.
Well, the pack of 3 was all together getting lost. And that's what did them in. The Mustachios knew where to go.
Right. They kind of just made that right turn at Albuquerque where you needed to, where the others made a left, took them a little bit in circles, and that was the difference. It seemed like they all finished, the top 4 finished within minutes. A minute. Seconds.
Yeah. But Tom, you're right. I also didn't see it coming. When earlier in the episode, and they started talking about Joel and Garrett's kids, I was like, oh no, this is it. Foreshadowing it. They're going to get eliminated. It's the storyline that didn't get picked up. And then, wow, they came through. So I'm with you there.
Tricked by the editors, Josh.
I love it. I love it.
Longtime listeners of the ReRACEables Podcast will know that Josh is our resident editor watcher. Can I just say that I'm happy, if nothing else, that Joel and Garrett got a win, because it was great to just watch them win, even if it's just a leg of the race.
They couldn't believe it.
They couldn't believe that they actually won. Right.
They actually said, how did we do it?
Yeah. Right. How did we do that? That's literally what they said. I also want to say, because I'm a big fan of what the prize is for the winning team. Could they have had a more appropriate trip to win for the Mustachios than a trip to the Galapagos Islands?
It was spot on, and I loved their reaction to just the laugh.
You just picture Charles Darwin, 13 different finches species, and the Mustachios, and they're all their glory. Yeah, they'll probably bring the who's the garden gnome? What company is it?
Expedia.
Travelocity.
Yeah, it'll be them, the finches, and the Travelocity gnome partying it up in the Galapagos Islands.
But Travelocity, if you'd like to sponsor the ReRACEables Podcast, we'll talk.
Yes, link in bio. Get all the information there. We would love to hear from you. Is this short-lived? Put on your clairvoyant hat here. The Mustachios winning. As much as we are rooting for them and we like them,
It's never happening again. If that's what you're asking. This is a one-time thing. They got lucky that the other three teams were together being lost.
Yeah, I agree too. I just think that Stephen, Annalise, Robin, Corey, and Greg and John are just way too strong to any of them get eliminated.
Maybe it just comes down to the design of the penultimate leg and then inevitably the final leg. The design of this third to last leg was brilliant in the sense that it allowed for, or it feels like it allowed for, a four-way foot race
Yeah.
at the end.
Yes.
The Mustachios could literally make the right turn. The leaders that we have become accustomed to seeing at the top make the left turn, and that could be the end. Or that could be the win, rather, for a team like Joel and Garrett.
And frankly, it was the same thing when running for the skydiving, right? Greg and John ran right past it, and the slow and steady Mustachios were able to take first place right out of that by just being a little bit smarter.
Smarter, just more aware, observant.
Well, as the tortoise in The Tortoise and the Hare, the tortoise is the wiser one. The slow and steady does win the race, Nicole.
All right. Agree to disagree.
Okay, Josh, you mentioned Greg and John and their mistake that they made. Their streak is over. Pretty amazing streak. We're talking about their previous 4 legs, team number 1 winning streak.
The machines.
Yeah. Any concern about Greg and John moving forward in the top 4?
Absolutely not. They are amazing. They have no weaknesses. The guy just pulls French out of his back pocket. Come on.
Come on. Could they have been more built for this leg? Greg literally not only spoke French, but studied abroad in France. Come on.
And lived there with a family who only spoke French.
We'll get to the detour in a little bit. There's a little preview. I mean, what these guys can't lose, can they?
No.
Especially
Except
now.
they did today.
Yes, right.
I mean, they didn't lose, but they just didn't come in first.
But it feels like, again, the design of the leg, if anything, it could come down to just being the most perfect. Whoever's the most perfect on that leg wins.
Yes,
Versus
I agree.
the, on average, the best pound for pound, leg per leg competitor.
That's what happens when you have really strong teams like this season does.
Yeah, I actually think it's really great television to see teams neck and neck, and really anyone who makes a mistake is the team that loses, and not necessarily they are the weaker team, which I guess is hard to watch them go. But to me, it is more exciting to see the big mistake and watching their demise through that.
So in the beginning of the episode, Greg and John kind of teased and foreshadowed making a mistake that could, as they said, quote, seeing the strongest teams go down because of one challenge. I wasn't thinking that they were going to be out this episode, but I did feel that their win streak would come to an end. And that's what I want to ask. Is this a good thing for their race to not go into the final 4 or potentially into the final 3 leg of the race with some win streak, winning 5? This would have been their 5th, maybe 6 in a row.
We don't want them becoming too cocky. They need to put a little adversity in their life. Make them try a little harder, push a little faster.
I strongly disagree. After they got their first win in the race, did we say, oh, you know what? Slow down. You don't need to get another first place win. What did they do? They kept winning. They kept going, and they kept dominating. I don't think that you can say that having them behind another team makes them stronger in any way. They are weaker because they didn't win this week.
I think it does make them stronger in a sense that it takes this pressure of, we're going to be this great. We're going to win 7 in a row. We're going to never lose again, or just never not come in first again. I think it's going to really, after this leg, make them go to wherever their sleeping quarters are and just strategize and game plan. Where did we make these mistakes? Is there anything we could have done differently? Is there some point that we should have done differently, and really kind of reevaluate versus, well, we just keep winning and we just keep winning and we've won 4 in a row?
They don't do that though. I think they were strategizing every single week and trying their
Definitely,
hardest every single week. I think it's hard to say like, well, it's actually good that they lost so that they know what it's like to lose. No way. They're working hard. They want to win every single week. I think they're going to be strategizing and putting themselves in the right headspace no matter what.
I guess I'm thinking of the sports analogy with the
Oh, you? Never.
always.
Coach Tom?
Yeah. Always. When you have these winning streaks, when you have these targets on your back as a result of that, right? Everybody's looking at Greg and John as leaders in the clubhouse, the tough ones that you're going to have to beat. And that works to their advantage too, but kind of dials up a little bit of humble pie that I think will serve them.
This humble pie you're talking about, Tom, are you eating that at the high school level? Or are you looking at this in the NFL level? Because there's no way that I'm telling an NFL team that it's better to lose a game because they're winning too much. Get out of here. This is the elite of the elite. This is the amazing race for $1 million. There's no humble pie. There's no humble pie. You're competing for all you've got every single week, no matter what.
Josh and I will never see eye to eye on anything.
Let's close it out here. We've talked about how they pretty much have no weaknesses, and we agree on that. Josh, you see a weakness with Greg and John?
I do. I think we actually have seen it in the past, and I have brought it up in prior past, but I do see them running right past that clue and overanalyzing things sometimes and not really taking a second to breathe and understand what's going on in the game. I think they're always looking towards what's next. And I could see that as a disadvantage, though this season it has not been a disadvantage.
Speaking of advantages, let's talk a little bit about 2 other teams that seem to, dare I say, become allies in this episode. We had Steve and Ashlie joining up with our fan favorites here, Rob and Corey, as kind of the front-running alliance, shall we call it?
I love this pairing because they're very similar in many ways.
Do tell.
We have the father-daughter, father-son relationship.
Mm.
You have the younger members of the team who are constantly able to sprint ahead as fast as they can, and then the fathers are in the back, even and hoeing and struggling. I was honestly fearful for Steve. He was gonna have like a cardiac arrest or something.
Leigh, you keep pushing me. I'm here.
And the poor guy, he's got Ashlie screaming at him,
like,
doing her Ashlie thing.
Like scream crying.
Yes.
Like scream or anxiety crying.
Shrieking. Yeah.
Shrieking at
yes.
And my man Steve is breathing heavy.
And see, that's where Corey can't scream at his dad because he won't hear him. But I know internally he was. Back to the alliance. I think it was a great pairing and it worked well. They helped each other. And then I was just the whole time I was excited to see, all right, they're both going to get to the same point. This is going to end up in a foot race.
I'd love to talk about how they became an alliance because we see Steve and Ashlie rush to the bus and then Ashley's yelling at the bus driver, close the door, close the door, close the door. We hate them. We have to go. We have to go. And then Rob and Corey somehow make it to the bus, get on the bus and be like, Ashlie, what? You're not supposed to be getting on a bus. You're supposed to be on a subway. And she just gets put in her place. And she's like, oh, shit. Wait, actually, how about we work together? And I just like, it's so fascinating and so telling of like, just kind of how innocent Rob and Corey are, but also how like high and low Steve and Ashlie are. And Nicole's right in all of these moments of why they connect and why they would work well together. And it is a beautiful, beautiful alliance to watch them. I just think it's so funny that they both didn't choose to be in the alliance. They kind of just fell into it.
But you know what? I disagree in that it didn't start on the bus. It started back when they were trying to find the violinist and how to get into the building.
Because Rob and Corey had used the express pass and got there first. And then they were not able to find the entrance, so they went in and then they couldn't find it. And then Steve and Annalise caught back up to them, and they were
Mhm.
coming out from the violinist when Rob and Corey were coming in. And it was this moment of
Steve directed them where to go.
that's the key difference. I told
He
him where to go.
He didn't have to say anything, but he did.
Right, but notice how Steve told them.
Annalise would have never. She probably even yelled at him when they were on the bus. How could
Yeah.
you tell them that?
I don't think the alliance started until Annalise wanted to be in the alliance. Because
Yes.
if it started when they gave him advice, then she wouldn't have said, close the door, close the door, close the door. And she
Sure.
did. And that's why I think it happened after.
Was it the right move strategically for Rob and Corey?
I think they weren't thinking about the race, to be honest. I think they're just like so pure and innocent that they were like, wait, those people are getting on the bus, ran to the bus and was like, just stating out loud, wait, guys, you're not really supposed to be on a bus. You're supposed to be on the subway. I don't think they went out of their way to help, but because they're just amazing, true, genuine people, they said that, and that's how it kind of came to fruition from their end. But I do think that Steve and Annalise kind of saw that as gameplay and was like, oh, wait, they're actually right. Maybe we can work with them. And that's where I actually think the advantage is Steve and Annalise.
Now, do we think that the alliance will continue into the penultimate leg?
I don't think it's an alliance in that sense. This was a alliance Uber that they just ordered up.
Yeah.
That fell into their laps. And I think the biggest part is I agree with you, Josh. And I agree with your point that Annalise, the alliance started when Annalise accepted it and said, we're going to do this. I think the biggest thing was that they had to have both said to themselves, why should we work against each other? That makes no sense. We know that we're ahead of 3 other teams. Let's work together. There's no guarantee that that's going to happen in the next episode, and especially not in the final episode. However, I will say this, going back to the foot race component, if any 2 teams were going to link up and work together and just let the slowest tortoise win or lose and let the slowest person be the nail in the coffin, then they're the 2 teams that should do that. So the only way that this alliance that we're calling it's not really an alliance, but the only way it even happens is because Rob and Corey get to the roadblock and decide to pull out their
Express Pass!
right, where they are able to skip one task. And it begs the obvious question. Did they use it properly? Did they use it too early? Or did they use it properly and just right?
I think it was used properly, but I think they probably would have maximized its use if it was used for the detour as opposed to the roadblock. And they would have never known that, but just after viewing the entire episode, I think the detour took more time than the roadblock. And so maybe they would have gotten further ahead.
Yeah, I also think just right. I think because they were so far, they were last, right? They were in last place. And it's going into that roadblock with being in last place. And when I was there, I would have gotten to that challenge and said, no matter how easy this is, I need to be in the front. Because once they know themselves, when they're in the front, they stay in the front. And they pretty much stayed in the front. That's part of this. You don't want to be in the back. So get to the front, stay in the front, and do well there. Hindsight, yeah, I guess they should have done it, but I'm in the back. I'm gonna use my express pass now.
We wanted to see the express pass catapult Rob and Corey, like Josh said, from the back to the front, which it did. And that led to ultimately them front running in the alliance with Steve and Annalise throughout the rest of the leg. And I think it's as good as an express pass that you could possibly have. And the biggest thing that I think was great about it was that they used it immediately upon getting to the roadblock. They opened
Yes,
the block,
yes,
they
yes, yes.
and they just said, boop, express pass, and we're out.
Yeah.
No time wasted, no dead time, especially too, they were getting on a boat. Boat travel can be a little tricky, but immediately express pass. Sorry, we're not doing the maypole and the dancing with the Swedish people. Excellent execution.
Although I really could have seen Rob enjoying the maypole dance.
We did lose out on that. Shout out to Rob and shout out to Rob's dance skills. We did miss out on that. Are we in on the express pass as a good thing for the race? I know this is the first time we're covering it on the pod, so.
Been on it, I think. I think I like it better than the fast forward because it doesn't by any means promise a win. Just because you use it doesn't mean that you are suddenly at the head of the pack. Clearly that was not the case. I would have loved to have seen them win this leg. It just gives them a little zoop.
I agree. I'm in on it. I think it's pretty damn good. I like how it functions. I like how it was used this time, especially. And going back, I think the Morgan and Lena kind of fumble. The way they used it kind of gave us two different perspectives with it and how you can use it better and not so good.
I'm out on it. I'm out on it. I'm not a big fan of this. It feels like it's just wasting airtime, to be honest. There's no real good. We haven't seen much strategy about it. It doesn't take a lot to get it. And when you use it, it doesn't actually do that much, right? Like they were in fourth place, they used it, and then seconds behind that. Actually, no, they didn't even get to the next challenge on time, right? So it's not real. It's like going in the HOV lane for one exit. What are you doing? You're just gonna get off anyway. I don't really understand it. I want to bring back something that's more dramatic to the game. I like the fast forward, or I just want to keep watching them race. Or maybe we can actually watch them in an airport for once. CBS, come on! You told us we're going to be back in the airport. We get 1 second where they're actually on Google in the airport. We're not getting any real airport content. Give me airport content. Get rid of this damn fast forward. The express pass.
I think Josh just swayed me. I love that you called it the HOV pass because I love the HOV. And
Maybe
also
it's something a future Amazing Race shtick is an HOV task.
Are you listening?
Yeah.
Are you listening, showrunners and producers? One other thing that I want to point out, why can you only use it on a roadblock or a detour? I want to use it on a route info. I would have skipped the skydiving. I know the skydiving is amazing. We're going to talk about it in a second. But if you could have express past the skydiving, now you're really catapulting. Now you're saving 45 minutes an hour.
Yep.
Like, or maybe that's the HOV lane. It's this real, like a steroided version of the express pass. The big takeaway from the roadblock with Ashlie coming out first, she catapults herself, gives her own a little express pass, if you will, by just not overthinking. And what happens? Greg, Garrett, and especially Ashlie totally overthink the roadblock, totally waste time. And Ashlie just smokes right by them with her own little express pass.
I think the key here was that she watched them do multiple wreaths so she could see, okay, the flowers don't have to be in the exact same type, in the exact same placement each time.
Oh, because there was a continuous demonstration going on.
And I think because she saw multiple being done that didn't look exactly perfect, that gave her the leeway to make hers a little bit looser, not so exact.
Attention to detail, yet lacking the detail because it wasn't necessary.
Correct.
I got a hot take. Ashlie, this is not the first time that we've seen you not focus on the attention to details. You've done this many times before, and somehow we have some very bad masters who just let her get away with it, like putting all those wooden things on the backpacks, and then they all just fall apart, and then she gets there, and it's completely fine. She's rushing through these challenges, not paying any attention to detail. And these, like I said, they're not checking and they're not focusing on the details. It feels like this race could just be done. Like you don't actually have to race it. You just got to kind of do it. It's driving me crazy.
Following up on the dragon guy, we hold our experts to an extremely high standard.
We do.
Here at the ReRACEables, we hold them to the highest standards, like the woman way back in Vietnam in the Lotus Garden. She just grunted at you.
Oh, yes. Took them forever. Yeah. We love these masters, these cultural masters around the world. They're living within us.
Yeah, I guess we demand more. And maybe Greg, Garrett, and Ashlie know that and they respect that because they're fans of the podcast. Or maybe they're just overthinking it. And I think it's really hard not to.
Part of the gameplay is reading the experts.
Has to be.
It has to be.
Josh isn't buying it.
Josh.
Well, maybe not reading them, manipulating them, right? With the like, oh, it's good, right? Those kinds of things. I think you try to look for any crack in the expert that you can, and you try to exploit it. And if it's a little bit of, you only put one little ring of the green wreath, and then you put in the right number of flowers, boop, you move it along, and you gain 10 minutes at least on everybody.
Listen, if you can make a miniature of a little book that does a little dinky fireplace versus somebody who's going to build a whole village and you know you're going to get away with it, that's what you do because that's going to make better television.
So something that you couldn't get away with in this episode, how'd you like that segue?
Love it.
Thank you. Was the route info in which you had to go skydiving. Now, skydiving is something that we've seen on the race many a times. I'm sure we will see it in the future. Josh, I hope when we are on the race that we will be able to do it. One thing quick, I do think that the Express Pass should have the ability to skip that, like we said before. General thoughts on skydiving. I'm all in on it. I've never done it. It looks like an amazing rush. It looks like an amazing thing to do. I thought that the cameras on the wrists were an amazing way to capture it. I love that there was sound of the people screaming. I love the little plane. I love all the things about it.
Oh, I am all out on skydiving. It had nothing to do with Sweden. I want to see local. I want to go experience. I can go skydiving in my backyard. Get out of here. I want to go see and experience the culture of what's going on in Sweden. What's local? Tell me about what's going on there. The recycling, amazing. I want to see more of that. You could go skydiving anywhere. I do prefer bungee jumping because you get to see something that's more to the culture, but it's not even. I'm a big pass on this.
As much as I like the wrist camera work and you got some of the view, I feel like we could have had a better view somehow with camera work, but maybe bungee jumping's a little bit better with getting camera and the whole capturing it.
Sure, make it about the culture then. Make it about the land. Oh, you're in the Grand Canyon and you're bungee jumping. That's cool. It's not about the bungee jumping, it's about seeing the Grand Canyon. They didn't really focus on seeing the landscape. They didn't really focus on Sweden. They just focused on, wow, you're bungee jumping. Oh, you're skydiving. Okay, cool. I don't really care about skydiving.
I disagree. I thought it was great. Anything that evokes that level of excitement and emotion and fear from the contestants is good television. Watching Ashlie go, Jiminy Cricket, like, it's great.
Shout out Jiminy Cricket.
It's great. And I can't get over the manner in which they exit the plane. It's not a dive.
No.
It would be a dive. It's called skydiving. It's not a dive.
Right.
They just roll out. And it's similar to how I get out of bed.
It's
it's just a
it's sky plopping.
It's sky plopping, yes.
Or forceful sky shoving into plopping.
I don't know, but it's then
reluctant sky plopping.
Yeah. And then suddenly you're just thrust into this largest adrenaline rush you're ever gonna have. What I said to Tom is like, wait a minute. Okay. They are all landing on their butt.
Felt like a bird.
None of them had a smooth landing. They all land on their butt. They can't process it because they've got to go run to their backpack where their next clue is sitting. It was just kind of crazy that you go through this like crazy life experience and then you don't have a second to even think about what you just experienced because you have to keep racing.
Maybe that's even better though, right? Let's say you go skydiving in normal life. You get up probably early that day, you go to the place, you probably learn a couple things, you put the suit on, you get up on the plane, you do it. You have the great adrenaline rush, like you said, and then what? You just go home and you go to Denny's?
I always go to Denny's after I
Maybe Cracker Barrel,
Ooh.
another possible sponsor. Versus
what's next?
Yeah, what's next? We're in this cab now, and we gotta get to the next amazing place, and we just our hearts are beating out of our chest. I thought it was also cool that Ashlie said skydiving really relieved this tension and frustration. I think Steve touched on it too. Like any negative or down feelings that you had are literally ripped out of you by the adrenaline of that. So if you're ever feeling down out there, go skydiving. Thank you. Amazing race. So we're not booking our first ReRACEables podcast skydiving trip.
No.
Oh, Josh is intrigued.
I am intrigued.
I think we got him. We mentioned Ashlie relieving some of the stress, relieving some of the tension. But the reason that she had that was in this episode, they were in the back of the pack. And unfortunately for them, Todd and Ashlie are eliminated from the race. They finish in 5th place. Very respectable. Very Aparna and Ishwar.
Shout out to Aparna and Ishwar.
Shout out to Aparna Ishwar. Let's do the 3 Goldilocks and the 3 Bears porridge. Too early, too late, just right. Todd and Ashley's finished.
I'm going to say just right. And if I look back at my rankings, I think I'd see a similar reflection.
You had Todd and Ashlie ranked 4th.
That's close.
Okay, I really thought it was just right also because I literally had them ranked 5th. So shout out to me. I've nailed Milena and Andrea in 8th place. And I've now nailed Todd and Ashlie in 5th. Crushing it on that. Should have had Elizabeth and Ileana at 13th. Shout out to Alexandra and Sheridan. Any reason to bring them up?
Should have not had Jocelyn and Victor first, though.
That hurts, but
had to be said.
Oh.
Gotta humble you.
Okay, first of all, your bottom 3 teams are still. Okay, Nicole had Stephen Annalise 13th, Rob and Corey 12th, and Joel and Garrett 11th. Okay. You better hope Greg and John win.
You're wrong.
Okay. No, it was just right for them. I think Todd really summed it up at the end. It didn't seem like they were learning anything. Going back to, remember when they were making the wish and he wished for world peace? And I was like, come on, dude. But you know what? The Todd I saw on this final leg was the athlete, was the coach in him coming out, talking about the comeback story, talking about the attitude and effort that you can control. And I think he was there for his wife. And for him to say like he's the real winner because all he needs in his world is his family. I think you could probably argue that that's cliche, but for that guy, that kind of competitor to do that and have the leg he had where he was supporting his wife and not piling on, and it tells me that they knew they were out, but also that he took the high road, and I think really reflected on what the race has done for him to that point and will continue to going forward.
Yeah, he's going to be happy looking back on this episode and looking back on his part in the race. I think they had a good race, but they were rightfully eliminated at this point. I don't really see them as one of the top teams, and we are now at the top. You know, they made it. They Todd and Ashlie were the top of the middle, And that's how far they made it. I do think that the beginning of the episode did showcase a little bit that they seemed like they would be content if they were to go. You know, when they were on the subway, they were kind of talking to each other. Oh, slow and steady wins the race, or whatever. I'm excited to see my family, or those sorts of kind of comments kind of foreshadowed the ending. And I think when they were eliminated, it was like, yeah, this was their time to go. Going back to one of the rules of the Amazing Race is we don't just see teams go out of nowhere. We have like there is some sort of driving expectation that they possibly could be eliminated soon. And this was it. And thanks for a great race, guys.
I liked Ashley's comment when Todd is trying to be positive and he's, saying people like a comeback story, and her response is just, that's what losers say.
Oh, yes.
She's not wrong.
She's not. It's not quite on the level of D'Angelo when he was just straight pissed when they lost.
No, he was the sorest losers.
Well, that's what happens when you're a natural winner. Shout out D'Angelo.
We haven't always seen the most genuine side of them, which we talked about. That was genuine. So
absolutely,
I liked it because that was what she really felt in that moment.
You saw the struggles in their relationship, I think, in drips and drabs. And like you could see how when she's facing real adversity, she goes to like a real negative place.
Yeah.
Super down, super self-deprecating, super negative headspace. And if you're in probably the marital problems they had once upon a time, that it was the first thing we learned about them, right? I think kind of the bookend now is that you see that through this experience, they've faced more adversity together, but they come out of it both knowing that they should be together. This is their person. And I think that was a really cool ending for them. Shout out Todd and Ashlie. All right, before we cross the finish line, any other grab bag items that we missed on?
Yeah, there's a few things I want to talk about. One of them is I just think that we're getting to a point where we were talking about before about how you can't make any mistakes. And
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued by seeing these advanced states of thinking. So I really love seeing Steve and Annalise say that we're going to pay for the taxi before we get out, right? These are like elements of the game. Or even seeing Todd and Ashlie going to someone in the airport and Googling, where's the location we have to get to so we could start to expect what we're going to see in the upcoming part of the race. And I really love seeing these advanced levels of thinking and pushing the game and pushing the race and pushing the viewer to a higher state, a more advanced version of the race. I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I think it enhances the viewing experience too, because when Todd and Ashlie figure it out, they ask the people and they know, oh gosh, we're skydiving. Then you, the viewer, are sitting there and saying, first of all, that was great strategy. Second of all, technology in modern times, which we kind of crushed earlier in the season, now is working for us and making it better. Because then you're also thinking, holy crap, they're going to sit on this flight from Slovenia to Stockholm. And they're going to be thinking, okay, as soon as we land, we're going skydiving. Like, ready or not, here we come.
Yeah, I didn't mind this use of Google. I think
Yeah.
historically it has bothered us, but in this case, it enhanced it. I think we just like any time we see strategy play out.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Next grab bag.
Subways and recycling and public transit just being so accessible in other countries. Bring it here. This is what we want to see and when we want to learn about and notice that other countries are doing it right. And we have the smelly New York City subway that we're dealing with and the very expensive Long Island Railroad. Talk about having too much trash to recycle that you start taking on other countries' trash. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, how is that possible?
Completely envious. I am so jealous of Sweden. We need to get these things here. But that's the beauty of the Amazing Race, is being able to see into other countries and other worlds, seeing what they prioritize and seeing the way that they live. And that's just so exciting for me sitting on my couch in my living room.
Do Steve and Annalise not know what a subway is?
Might not. I don't know if they have those in
They thought the
Texas.
bus. Am I wrong? They thought the bus was the subway. I know they're in a different country.
I don't know.
I get it that like things have different, like football is soccer to us, but football to them. Do they not know what a subway is?
Tom,
Ashlie,
this is gameplay. This is gameplay. They don't focus on attention to detail. They just say we have to get there. It doesn't matter how we do it. I think this is totally right on par with how they're playing the game. And you know what? It's floppy, and this is why they're not going to win.
Wow, hot takes.
Oh,
Third rail takes right there.
that went from grab bag to hot take real quick.
The sizzle is back. Anything left in the grab bag? So we'll end the grab bag there and we'll move on to crossing the finish line. For my crossing the finish line, it's time to look back into that crystal ball. There's 4 teams left, and I think that the right teams are there. Ultimately, John and Greg are not going to win. It's going to come down to a cumulative challenge that I think that they're just going to make that wrong turn, and I think that this is indicative of it. I want to see the front runners win. I always kind of root for the favorites in these competitions. I'm rooting for them secretly because I like that part of it. But of course, my heart is rooting with Rob and Corey, and I don't think that my head is going to prevail in my head's pick of Greg and John to win.
To cross the finish line, I similarly have a prediction. However, it's different from yours. Mustachios are going to be out next episode. I think it was luck that they won this leg. They're done next episode. Sorry, Mustachios. And then ultimately, I feel like it will come down to another foot race, in which case these 2 older men are going to be neck and neck struggling, and John and Greg with their gazelle legs are going to take the win.
Crossing the finish line is just bringing up this factor of age. I think this is very, very interesting, especially Nicole had them as their 3 lowest probably because of their age. But we're looking at Rob and Corey. Rob is 48 years old. Steve and Annalise. Steve is 54 years old. Joel and Garrett are 42 and 43 years old. And we look at that age gap. John and Greg, 25 and 27. That is huge. Huge. We're looking at 25 versus 54. We're saying that Steve is double the age of John. I agree. If in a foot race, John is going to win. Every single time. It's just not going to happen. So if it does come down to a foot race, I hear you. I agree with you. But I want to kind of look at the season as a whole, right? This has not really been that much of an athletic season. And I've said this on past podcasts. It has been very much based around strategy and timing and a little bit of luck. And so I do think that it is really interesting because 10, 15, 20 seasons ago, you wouldn't have these 3 teams with people this old. I mean, in a nice way. And I think that that's really interesting of how the game is evolving and what the game is turning into.
One last crossing the finish line. We're down to only 1 female remaining in the competition.
Yeah, huge factor.
Right? Annalise, that she was the number 1 female competitor of the season. Despite her shortcomings, I think she still is atop that list.
She's still here.
I know that it's hard to argue that.
That's a great point, Tom. Looking back at this season, we really did not have strong women.
No, and ultimately, look, we have 3. The other 3 teams are all men, old, young, whatever, a mix. We have all male teams. So
Top male, because I have my idea of who the top male is.
I think it has to be John.
I disagree.
I think it's John.
Why?
Well, if we go to the detour, for example, how it was amazing to watch him surgically be the server. Good evening, everyone. Or thank you, head waiter.
Brains.
Right? We'd like to close out your meal.
I did really thoroughly enjoy him really taking on that role.
It's hard to separate the 2 of them, but that was the first time that you really saw John kind of stretch his legs in a sense and really just like, wow, this guy has never been a waiter, but I would have guessed he's been a waiter for 10 years. And in a place like City Hall, that kind of place where that detour was. That was amazing. He was great.
I think the top male is Corey.
I agree.
He does it all. And imagine if you had a team with 2 Coreys, what could be done?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was thinking about
John and Greg.
I don't know.
No, you don't. I agree. Even TV play, like interview wise, Rob has maybe gotten 2 lines in as an actual interview because it's signed. Corey is speaking the entire time. Corey has probably gotten the most airtime this entire season because he's speaking for 2 people. And every time, oh, we thought about this strategy. Oh, we had to do this. We had to do that. It's Corey. He's talking to every single person. He's probably booking every single flight. He is the one like navigating. I think that Corey is definitely the star this season.
Lot of action here tonight, folks. This is exciting stuff. We're down to the final 4. Let's close out the podcast by just talking power rankings. So with Todd and Ashlie coming off the board, Nicole and myself closed the gap on Josh. Nicole, you had Todd and Ashlie 4th. I had them 5th. Josh, you had them 3rd. So we do narrow the margin between Josh and us. But Josh still out in front. Doesn't look like we're going to be able to catch him. But Nicole, the floor is yours tonight. We mentioned it earlier in a little bit of a thing. Everybody had Steve and Annaleigh way underranked, but you have at number 13, Steve and Annaleigh, number 12, Rob and Corey, number 11, Joel and Garrett, and number 3, Greg and John. Would you like to explain yourself?
I have no explanation. I think going forward, next time we do power rankings, I'm going to have to just reverse whatever I think. And then maybe I'll achieve some level of success.
That does it for tonight's podcast. Thank you to Josh. Thank you to Nicole. Only 2 episodes left. I know that's sad, but we're down to the final 4, and, well, all good things must come to an end.
So
be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to our Instagram and YouTube and all of our social media here. Head over to tribalcouncilblog.com for all Survivor content, as well as links to our other previous ReRACEables podcasts from this season and other seasons. And thanks for listening. Really appreciate the support. We'll see you next time.